Czechia, also known as the Czech Republic, is a landlocked country in the very heart of Europe, and though it is modest in size, its story is as vast and rich as any empire that has ever shaped the continent. Its landscapes of medieval castles, Gothic spires, rolling vineyards, and fairy tale towns have long been the backdrop for legends, wars, revolutions, and renaissances. To journey through Czechia is to walk hand in hand with history, to dance to the rhythm of folk music, to sip centuries-old beer in taverns where time seems to pause, and to marvel at the resilience of a people who have survived empires, invasions, and ideological struggles, always preserving their language, traditions, and identity. Long before it became Czechia, the region was inhabited by Celtic tribes known as the Boii, whose name lingers in the word Bohemia. They were followed by Germanic tribes and later the Slavs, who arrived in the 6th century and gave birth to the Czech people. These Slavic settlers brought with them pagan rituals, agricultural traditions, and oral stories that formed the foundation of Czech culture. In the 9th century, the region rose to prominence under the Great Moravian Empire, a Slavic kingdom that introduced Christianity through Saints Cyril and Methodius. They gave the Slavic people their alphabet and scriptures, weaving faith into the cultural fabric of the land. Even after the empire's decline, the seeds of identity had been planted, and the Czechs would never lose sight of their distinctiveness in the centuries ahead. The first great dynasty to rule Czech lands was the Přemyslids, beginning in the 9th century. They established Prague as their capital, turning it into a center of trade and culture in Central Europe. The story of Saint Wenceslas, a Přemyslid duke murdered by his brother and later canonized as the patron saint of the Czech nation, reflects the intertwining of politics and spirituality that has marked the country's journey. The Přemyslids left behind an enduring legacy, including early castles and churches that still dot the landscape, but their dynasty gave way to the Luxembourgs in the 14th century, ushering in what many consider the golden age of Czech history. During the reign of Charles IV, who became both King of Bohemia and Holy Roman Emperor, Prague was transformed into one of Europe's most magnificent cities. Charles founded Charles University in 1348, making it the first university in Central Europe, a beacon of learning that endures to this day. He commissioned the construction of the Charles Bridge, the soaring St. Vitus Cathedral, and the majestic Karlstein Castle, turning Prague into a jewel of Gothic architecture. Under his reign, Bohemia flourished culturally and economically, attracting artists, scholars, and traders from across the continent. The echoes of his era still resonate in the cobblestones of Prague, where Gothic towers rise above winding alleys and the river Vltava glimmers beneath stone arches. Yet history is never a straight path. The Hussite Wars of the 15th century marked one of the first great religious upheavals in Europe, a precursor to the Reformation that would sweep the continent a century later. Inspired by the preacher Jan Hus, who criticized the corruption of the Catholic Church and was burned at the stake for heresy in 1415, Czech reformers rose in defiance. The Hussites, with their war wagons and fiery zeal, fought off crusading armies sent by the Pope, proving that a small nation could stand against the mightiest powers of its time. Though eventually subdued, the Hussite movement left a deep imprint on Czech identity, a spirit of resistance, a belief in justice, and a stubborn independence that would resurface again and again in the centuries to come. As the Renaissance spread across Europe, Bohemia fell under the rule of the Habsburgs, the powerful dynasty that controlled much of Central Europe. The Battle of White Mountain in 1620 was a turning point when Czech Protestant nobles were crushed by Catholic Habsburg forces, leading to centuries of Austrian domination. For nearly 300 years, Czech lands were subsumed into the Austrian Empire, their language suppressed, their culture marginalized. German became the language of administration and education, and the Czech identity seemed destined to fade into obscurity. But it did not. The people clung to their folklore, their songs, their traditions, and by the 19th century, a great national revival began. Writers, poets, and scholars resurrected the Czech language, rediscovered folk tales, and celebrated a proud history that refused to vanish. The Czech national revival was not just a cultural movement, it was an act of defiance, a reclaiming of selfhood in the face of empire. The 20th century brought even greater upheavals. In 1918, with the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire after World War I, the Czechs and Slovaks declared independence, forming Czechoslovakia. For the first time in centuries, the Czech nation had its own state. The interwar years were marked by democracy, industry, and cultural growth, with Prague shining as a cosmopolitan capital. But this era was cut short in 1938, when Nazi Germany occupied the Sudetenland and later all of Czechoslovakia. The country suffered under brutal occupation, its Jewish population devastated by the Holocaust, its intellectuals and leaders silenced. Yet even in darkness, the Czech spirit endured. The assassination of Nazi Governor Reinhard Heydrich in Prague by Czech resistance fighters stands as a symbol of courage and sacrifice. After World War II, Czechoslovakia briefly tasted freedom before falling behind the Iron Curtain as a communist state under Soviet influence. The Prague Spring of 1968 was a bold attempt to reform socialism with a human face, led by Alexander Dubček. For a few months, censorship relaxed, freedoms expanded, and hope filled the air. But Soviet tanks rolled into Prague, crushing the movement and reminding the world of the cost of defiance. Still, seeds of change had been planted, and in 1989, the Velvet Revolution swept through the country. Led by playwright-turned-politician Václav Havel, the people filled the streets with keys jangling in protest, and the communist regime fell without a shot fired. Freedom had returned, and with it, a new era of democracy. In 1993, Czechoslovakia peacefully split into two nations, the Czech Republic and Slovakia, in what became known as the Velvet Divorce. Unlike so many national separations in history, this one was marked by cooperation and mutual respect. The Czech Republic forged its path as a modern European state, joining NATO in 1999 and the European Union in 2004. Today, under its new official name of Czechia, it stands as a testament to resilience, creativity, and survival through centuries of turmoil. Czech culture is as rich as its history. Known worldwide for its beer, Czechia is often called the beer capital of the world, with Pilsner originating in the city of Plzeň in 1842. Czechs are the world's largest consumers of beer per capita, and taverns in Prague, Brno, and beyond are not just places to drink but places to connect, to share stories, to experience the warmth of community. Food is hearty and comforting, with classics like svíčková, marinated beef with creamy sauce, goulash, dumplings, and kolache pastries filling tables in both city restaurants and countryside homes. Music and art flourish in Czechia, from the classical compositions of Antonín Dvořák and Bedřich Smetana to the modern cinema that has earned acclaim worldwide. Folk traditions live on in colorful festivals, where costumes, dances, and songs preserve the heritage of centuries past. The Czech people are known for their humor, their skepticism of authority, and their love of literature, with writers like Franz Kafka, Milan Kundera, and Bohumil Hrabal offering windows into the Czech soul. Tourists flock to Czechia for its attractions, and rightly so. Prague, often called the City of 100 Spires, enchants with its Old Town Square, Astronomical Clock, Charles Bridge, and Prague Castle. Beyond the capital, Český Krumlov dazzles with its Renaissance charm, Kutná Hora astonishes with its Gothic cathedral and bone church, and Karlovy Vary invites relaxation in its hot springs and elegant spa houses. The Moravian wine country, the caves of the Moravian karst, and the hiking trails of the Bohemian Switzerland National Park reveal the natural beauty that rivals the cultural treasures. Castles like Hluboká, Lednice, and Konopiště stand as reminders of noble pasts, while villages like Telč and Litomyšl preserve UNESCO-listed charm. There are also surprising facts about Czechia that many do not know. It is home to one of the world's oldest universities, Charles University, founded in 1348. The word robot comes from the Czech playwright Karel Čapek's 1920 play R.U.R. Czechia boasts some of the cleanest and safest drinking water in Europe. The country has no coastline, yet it has thousands of lakes, reservoirs, and rivers that provide endless opportunities for recreation. Prague's astronomical clock, installed in 1410, is the third oldest in the world and the oldest still in operation. And though small in size, Czechia is a scientific powerhouse with a strong record of innovation, research, and contributions to global culture. The essence of Czechia lies in its ability to balance the weight of history with the joys of everyday life. Walk through a Prague alley at dusk, and you may hear echoes of medieval merchants alongside the laughter from a modern cafe. Visit a mountain village in Moravia, and you'll find people who cherish their folk songs yet embrace modern Europe with open arms. Sit in a pub, clinking glasses of golden beer, and you'll feel a sense of belonging that transcends borders. Czechia is a country that has endured conquests, oppression, and division, yet it always emerges with its spirit intact, ready to share its beauty with the world. To tell the story of Czechia is to tell the story of survival, creativity, and community. It is a nation that has seen empires rise and fall, that has been at the crossroads of Europe's greatest dramas, yet has never lost its own identity. From the mythical origins of Slavic settlers to the glittering towers of modern Prague, from the pain of occupation to the triumph of freedom, Czechia is proof that even the smallest nations can leave the deepest imprints on history. Its spires, its songs, its beers, and its people together form a story that is both unique and universal, the story of humanity as endless quest for home, meaning, and beauty.